Almost half of your life is on autopilot. Just think about that. Most people are letting their habits that they've never questioned decide how they feel, how they think, and ultimately how they perform. Okay, roughly 40% of your day runs on habit, not on your goals, not on motivation, on your habits. Research suggests that about 40% of what we do each day is habitual. It's performed in the same contexts, it's on autopilot without much conscious thinking or deliberation at all. So if your energy feels off, or your focus feels scattered, or your confidence is just not where it used to be, there are lots of ways that you can look at this, of course. And habit alignment is something that is fixable almost immediately. Because often what is happening is that we adopt habits from a place of low energy or low vibration, not from high energy or high vibration, and therefore they don't serve us. Okay? We need to be adopting habits from a place of high energy or high vibration, or high vibes, as you might say, which I used to think was just a print that you'd get on a t-shirt that you might find at Glastonbury. So before we go any further, let me be clear on what we mean by high vibes. High vibes and high vibes habits are really important. High vibes isn't about being happy all the time. It's not about positive thinking, and it's definitely not about just pretending that everything is fine. When we say high vibes, we're talking about states of consciousness and the energies that we put out into the world. Okay, and there's an established map of human consciousness that shows how human emotional states range from shame, guilt, fear, anger, right at the bottom, up through neutrality and courage and willingness, all the way up to things like peace and love and presence, right the way at the top. And as you move up the map, your thinking starts to broaden and your perception starts to widen, and therefore your energy starts to increase and your decision making improves and everything starts to feel better. Okay, low states of consciousness narrow your world and high states expand it. So raising your vibe simply means this: spending more time in states that expand your capacity, expand it to think and decide and to connect and to lead. Okay, and here's the key thing and the key point that most people miss. If 40% of your life is habitual, then the fastest way to raise your operating state through those states of consciousness is to change the habits that are running your autopilot. So these are 5 habits that I now live by personally that help me operate in a higher state to help as consistently as possible. Obviously, I'm not there all the time, but as consistently as possible. And the same things that come up inside of coaching all of the time. So the first habit number 1, is visualization. Okay, I help high performers with this all of the time. Habit number 1 is visualization, and I mean direction, not fantasy, because most of us don't lack ambition. We lack a level of clarity, and visualization isn't about pretending that your life is perfect. It's about giving your nervous system a direction to then organize around, because your brain doesn't move towards goals, it actually moves towards images. There's a real solid body of neuroscience behind all of this. When you vividly visualize an experience, your brain activates many of the same neural circuits as if you were actually in the place that you're visualizing or doing the thing. It's seen in motor imagery studies and brain scans, and also now in loads of performance research as well. Your nervous system responds to perceived reality, not objective reality. Okay, I'm going to repeat that because it's important. Your nervous system responds to perceived reality, not objective reality. And that's why anxiety feels real, even when nothing is happening. And that's why visualization works when it's done properly. You're not pretending, you're training your brain to prepare for the future. That's why when we write a forward-looking vision and commit to it emotionally, we remind ourselves of it on a daily basis, we start to know exactly how it would unfold, because we need to know and feel who we're becoming to get there. And the trap we can fall into with all of this is to be realistic with it, which usually is just an excuse of staying inside the boxes that we confine to and inside the identity boxes that are keeping us stuck in the first place. So habit number one is making a habit out of visualizing. Visualize a desired future event, or even, if you're brave, a desired future life, and make it a habit. Okay, habit number two is daily movement. I'm going to start with 3 words: state, story, strategy. There's a simple performance model that Tony Robbins teaches that explains this better than anything else. And it's quite simply state, story, strategy. Most people try and change their strategy first. They read another book, they build another plan, or they add another tool into their toolbox. But if your state is off, then none of it sticks. Okay, your physiology drives your emotions, and your emotions shape the story that you tell yourself. And that story dictates your decisions. Okay, if your body is tight and it's tired and it's overstimulated or flat, of course your thinking starts to narrow and problems start to feel bigger and risks feel scarier and confidence starts to drop. Movement is the fastest way, in my opinion, and the most impactful way to change your state. And I've seen it consistently. I've seen it in elite sport, I've seen it in senior leadership, I've seen it in my own life and in my clients as well. When the body shifts consistently, perspective follows. And that is why training is not about aesthetics. It's about regulating your nervous system so you can think clearly under pressure. Make it a daily habit. Move every day. Walk, lift, run, train. And it's not to punish yourself and to burn calories. It's much bigger than that. It's to put yourself in a state where better stories can be told, better decisions then become possible. Okay, habit number 3 is being self-aware on a daily basis and thinking about your strengths. Okay, let me get into it. Most people know their weaknesses, even if they don't admit it. High performers, of course, know their weaknesses, but they also know their strengths and remind themselves of them and start to build their lives around them. When someone feels flat or frustrated or stuck, it's rarely a motivation problem. It's usually some sort of misalignment in terms of their strengths and what they enjoy spending time doing. They're spending time away from what really energizes them and too little time in their zone of contribution, which really lights them up. Self-awareness isn't about self-absorption. It's about knowing where you create the most value and where you leak the most energy. You see this in sport all the time. Think about David Beckham as a football player. Okay, strengths, not talent. Okay, he wasn't the fastest player. He wasn't the most naturally gifted footballer or dribbler. He wasn't the biggest or the strongest, but he knew his strengths, and his delivery and his precision and his work ethic and his consistency. So instead of trying to become someone else like Pele, he doubled down on what he was already exceptional at: free kicks, crosses, standards, training. And by doing that, he built a world-class career. I see the same thing in leaders. When someone feels flat or frustrated, it's rarely a motivation problem. It's usually because they're spending too much time away from their strengths. Make it a weekly habit by asking yourself a question. When did I feel most alive this week? When did I feel the most drained? What strengths was I using? And what strengths have I just been ignoring? Okay, habit number 4 is around energy management. Most people think their biggest problem is time. It comes up all the time with my clients. Haven't got enough time. It isn't. It's energy. But energy management doesn't need to be complicated. And here's the habit that I use personally and I coach others to adopt. It's a principle. Never steal tomorrow's energy. That's it. Okay, every evening, every decision, every trade-off runs through that filter. Whether it's late night scrolling, whether it's having an extra drink, whether it's overeating, saying yes when you're already tired. You don't need a huge rule book around it. You just need to ask yourself, is this stealing from tomorrow's energy? Because the cost of most decisions that you make don't show up immediately. They show up the next day or in the morning. Lower patience, lower focus, lower standards, and of course that compounds over time. I learned that the hard way. And I removed alcohol completely. It wasn't about being disciplined. It was about protecting my energy and about consistency and stabilizing my mornings and my training so I could become reliable and my thinking could get clearer. Okay, and here's the insight. Consistency builds confidence faster than intensity ever will. If you can be consistent with something, your confidence goes up astronomically. When tomorrow's energy is protected, you will trust yourself more. You stop negotiating with yourself. You can show up calmer under pressure. And the frame around it is, this is not restriction, it's a move of self-respect. Make energy protection a habit. Okay, did I do anything today that stole from tomorrow's energy? Another really powerful question around that. Habit number 5, I'm going to call Love 2.0. It's tattooed on my wrist, broaden and build. Okay, Love 2.0, let me explain. It's functional and it's now tattooed on my arm. And it actually comes from a daily reminder from Barbara Fredrickson, who's a psychologist who built the broaden and build theory. Okay, that theory proves that through research that states such as love, appreciation, connection and trust, the research proves that they don't just feel good, they actually broaden your thinking as well, expand your perception and build long-term resources as a result. So in performance terms, Love 2.0, as soppy as it might seem, raises your actual performance and operating system. You see more options, you become more creative, you become less defensive, you listen better, you lead better. This is why the best leaders aren't just sharp, they are secure as well. So Love 2.0 is not about sentiment, it's practiced through presence, respect, appreciation, and contribution. How do I do this, Dave? You might be thinking, well, one daily habit. Okay, set one intention every day of an act of connection. Okay, whether it's with your partner, your kids, your team, maybe even the barista at the coffee shop, it really doesn't matter. And it's not softness, it's a tool that expands your thinking and broadens your opportunity. Okay, so none of this is about pretending to be someone else. And none of it is about adding more complexity to your life. It's about recognizing that a huge part of how you think, how you feel, and how you perform is currently being decided for you by a habit. And habits that you have programmed over time. You have a choice to reprogram any of those things that are no longer appropriate and to upgrade to a high vibration habit system. Okay, so know this. Know that raising your habits to a high vibe is not mystical at all. It's practical and it's about performance. Change the habits that run on autopilot that don't serve you, and eventually you can change your operating state to a position that does serve you, which is where lasting change actually lives. Okay, if you like this video, please subscribe to my newsletter. I'm going to put the link in the description. Subscribe to the channel, and until then, I'll see you in the next one.